with the Curbside Compost folks. So welcome, Helen.
Thanks so much, Beth. So I'm going to do a screen share. So everyone bear with me for a moment as I get this set up. Okay, let's see here. So hopefully you're all seeing my screen, and now here it is. So anybody holler if you can't see this, but I'm gonna assume that you can. So thank you all so much for joining us. Thanks, Beth, for introducing and for giving us some Zoom protocol. So tonight we're gonna be talking about how to recycle and compost in Northfield. Want to shout out a thank you to Jan Shoger, a Northfield resident who helped to make these workshops possible. Really appreciate that, Jan. My name is Helen Forsyth. I will be presenting. Some of the materials that you'll see tonight were compiled by Nell Gerke. And I'm a part of Northfield Curbside Compost and super excited to be collaborating with Beth and the city of Northfield on these workshops. So to give a shout out to our upcoming webinars, next Monday at this same time, 7 p.m. April 5th, we'll be talking about at-home composting, backyard composting. So if that's something you're interested in, please join us. We will then, the following Monday, April 12th, also 7 p.m., we will be talking about compost communication. So that's really related to if you want to talk to your family or your friends or your neighbors about why compost matters. That's what we'll be chatting about at that last time. If you can't make any of those, don't worry, they will be recorded and available on Northfield Public Broadcasting TV channels and Northfield's YouTube channel. So that's pretty cool. So for tonight, a little overview about where we're going to go in the next hour. We're going to talk a little bit about waste and climate change and how those two things are related. Then we're going to talk about recycling in Northfield. We're going to talk a little bit about household hazardous waste in Northfield, and compost. And then we'll close. And as Beth said, there'll be opportunities kind of between each section to ask questions. If at any point there's a question that we don't know the answer to, Beth and I will follow up with you about possible resources you can look into. And as Beth mentioned, we'll be sending out a take-home booklet that'll have a lot of follow-up links where you can find out more information about a lot of the things I'll be going over. So would love to hear a couple people just shout out. You're welcome to unmute. What are you hoping to learn tonight? You can also throw it in the chat.
Well, I'm interested in learning what to compost and what not to compost. There's some borderlines that are kind of hard to decide.
Excellent. We'll definitely be talking about that. And I actually can't see the chat. So maybe Beth, if you see things come through the chat, would you mind sharing them?
Yep. So we have a question, where composted materials that are picked up end up? Ooh, good one.
Okay, excellent.
What different plastics can be recycled?
Excellent.
We have another in the chat here, Helen. We want to know how clean our containers have to be in order to recycle them. Like, do we need to be rinsed out? Yes. Okay, good.
All right. Excellent. Those are all good questions, and definitely some things that we will be talking about. So I am happy for that. We're going to move on, but definitely be thinking about what you're hoping to learn. And if, like I said, if there's things that we don't go over in this presentation, please feel free to reach out to us, ask questions, all that good stuff. So the first portion of our conversation here, we'll talk a little bit about why does composting matter? So some things about why compost matters. When organic waste, so food scraps and all that type of thing, go into the landfill, they don't have the proper amount of oxygen to break down. So they release a gas called methane, and that is a really significant contributor to climate change. The other thing that when compost goes into the landfill, it just takes up more space, which means that we need to be constructing more landfills. So the less bulk that we have going to the landfill means fewer landfills that have to be constructed and maintained. And that's something that we want. Here's a graphic that just shows some of what I was talking about related to methane. So again, yes.
Sorry to interrupt.
That's
Try
okay.
and hit your button again.
Oh, sure.
It's not coming through. For some reason the graphic is not showing. Hang on a second. I got
Okay.
a plan B.
All right, cool.
Go ahead and stop sharing for a second.
Okay.
Oh, there it goes. Okay, now we can see it. That's weird. Okay, hang on for 1 second. Hit the
Sure.
stop share.
Yep.
Okay, hang on. Okay, I don't know if that's any better. I was going to try sharing my version, but I don't think I can expand it. It does not like the pictures.
Okay. Well, in that case, maybe
That didn't happen. We tried it out.
Yeah. Yeah. Thank you everybody for rolling with some technical difficulties. Beth, maybe if the images aren't coming up on mine, we can just roll with yours.
Yep.
Okay.
I think we're gonna have to
Sounds
go with
good.
this version of it.
All right. Cool. So yeah, hopefully everybody can now see what I'm talking about. So as I was saying, when organic waste goes into the landfill, it's mixed in with all the other plastics, it's mixed in with all the other stuff, and it doesn't have the proper exposure to oxygen. It doesn't have the proper temperature regulation. All these different things make it not possible for that organic waste to break down properly. And so that's a problem for the methane that it releases. And it can also be a problem for the leachate, the different pollutants that can go into the groundwater. And so it's really important that we keep organic waste out of the landfill. And you can go to the next slide, Beth. Another reason why it's important is because organic waste is a really good resource for soil health and fertility if it's broken down properly. So if it has proper exposure to oxygen, if there's a proper mix of the different chemical components, that can be a really valuable resource for gardens and farms and landscaping and all these different things. So those are a couple of points about why composting matters. And now we'll go into a couple of points about why recycling matters. So with recycling, a big thing for me is conservation of resources. So we want to be using these existing materials that have already been extracted. We want to be getting as much use out of them as possible, so we don't have to continually be extracting more and more things from our earth. And then kind of an overlapping reason with compost, the less bulk that we have going to the landfill, again, means fewer landfills that have to be constructed and maintained. So then here we have some information from 2018 in Rice County. Here is kind of a pie chart of the different places that our waste went in 2018 in Rice County. And this came from the Minnesota Pollution Control Agency. So we've got 40% of our waste going to the landfill, 29% going to organics recycling, and then 31% going to other types of recycling. And that's in 2018. And so as you can see, that's about 60% of materials recycled, and we've still got a really long ways to go. So just some information. If you want to check out more about where different materials are going in Minnesota, I definitely encourage people to check out the Minnesota Pollution Control Agency website, and there will be links for that in your take-home booklet. And Beth, you can go to that next slide. Yeah, so again, 60% of waste generated in Minnesota from 2018 was recycled, and that's by weight. And then this next slide will just show the link that I was mentioning. A lot of really good resources, and you can look at different counties in Minnesota. So definitely check out that resource if people are interested in getting some more details about where different recycling is going. So then also wanted to shout out the Northfield Climate Action Plan. So that's a big part of why we're doing these webinars. The Northfield Climate Action Plan was adopted in November of 2019. It really brings together some long-term visions for climate mitigation and resiliency here in Northfield. And was really a collaboration of city officials and community members to come together and say, climate change is really a priority for us here in Northfield. We want to be figuring out how to deal with this within our community. And so these webinars are just one of the many, many different results of that as we try to grapple with this as a community. So if you want to check out more about that, there's a link, and there'll be a link in your take-home booklet. So now would love to take questions about kind of this bigger picture. Why does waste matter, and what's going on with waste in Minnesota?
Well, my question still is the borderline between recycling and composting. I mean, a tomato is pretty obvious where it goes, but there are a number of things like the thing you get when you do pizza, that
Yes.
container. Which one you could, if it's clean, you can recycle it, or you could compost it. If it's dirty, it composts. I mean, that kind of question.
Yeah, yep. So we will get into much more detail about what's recyclable, what's compostable, the different ways to do that. So we will go there.
It's our next section.
Yep, exactly.
Helen, I'm not seeing any other hands right now, so maybe we just jump into that.
All right, sounds good. So we will talk first about recycling. And you can keep right on going to that next slide, Beth. So it's really important to note that it's a little different what can be taken in the different counties. So most of Northfield is in Rice County. There's a little bit of Northfield in Dakota County. So if you don't know which county you're in, you should find that out. Here's a map that gives you a little idea, but that will determine which recyclables you can do through your collection program. So we can keep going, Beth. So in Dakota County, it's a little more limited. You can recycle numbers 1, 2, and 5. And I really want to emphasize for people, you'll so often see the little recycle triangle, those arrows. And it's really important to check the number and not just see that triangle and assume like, oh, okay, great, I can recycle it. Because it is important to check which ones go where. So to further that point, in Rice County, you can recycle 1 through 7, whereas Dakota County, just 1, 2, and 5. And that information will be in your take-home booklet. So if you're trying to remember, keep track of this, don't worry, it'll be in the follow-up resource. And we can go on to that next slide. Okay, so here, hopefully our image will load because otherwise it's not very fun. But there's not a ton of variation other than the numbers between what is accepted in Rice and Dakota County. So things like glass bottles and jars, metal cans, newspapers, magazines, phone books, paper, cardboard boxes, so long as they are clean and don't have like food byproducts on them, office papers, all of those things are compostable, or I'm so sorry, recyclable in both Dakota and Rice.
Helen, I'm going to pause this for just a second. Why don't you go ahead and try to see if you can refresh that Google slide, because I wasn't having any more pictures on mine, and I can maybe just add a little bit while you're working on that. One of the things is, as Helen mentioned, so technically right now Rice County takes plastics 1 through 7, but that doesn't necessarily mean they're getting recycled really, like that there's a market. They just haven't changed what they say they're taking at this point. And so you will very rarely have something that you would normally stick in your recycle bin that's going to have the 6 or 7. So that's things like styrofoam cups and compact discs and things like that. So most of the time you're not going to find those. The 4s are an important one. 4s are things like the plastic bags. And that is something that All the recycling people are please asking us, do not put in your recycle bin. At one point in time, you could put, I remember they used the term the bag of bags, like you'd put a whole bunch of bags in and tie it up in a bag and put it in the recycle bin. Don't do that anymore, please. It ties up their processing equipment. So the best thing to do is to reuse that at home in some way, or if you can find a retail store that's still taking them back. Target used to, some of the other stores, Cub and Family Fare and others used to, and hopefully will again. But do not put those in your recycle bin. That's a huge thing for our Dick Sanitation folks. All right, let's see, Helen, that is looking much better. I'm gonna mute and let you continue. And if it goes off again, we'll see where we need to go.
Excellent. And thank you so much for adding those pieces of information, Beth. So just as I was saying, we've got some illustrations here of what is recyclable in both Dakota and Rice that are non-plastic. Here's some examples of things that are not recyclable. So we have things like food, electronics, and then as Beth was just saying, plastic bags. Again, really important to keep those out. And then we have a couple of lovely examples of bad recycling. And so as you can see here, we've got some yard waste in one of these recycle bins. We do not want yard waste in recycling. You do want, somebody asked a question of like, how much do you need to wash things out? You do need to be quite thorough with how much you rinse things out. So we've got this Valentina hot sauce bottle that is not properly washed out. So yeah, just a couple of examples of recycling that is not ideal. And here's some more. So we've got the pizza box. It is important with pizza boxes not to recycle them. If they've got food on them, which if it's a pizza box, it's just going to have some food on it. You'll want to compost that, or if you aren't able to find a compost situation, then you'll need to just throw it in the trash.
Helen, just so you know, and this isn't the end of the world, so you can keep going, but it looks like the pictures are lagging. But if you know what you're talking about, I think keep talking and we can probably imagine what you're showing us as pictures.
Okay, sounds good. Thanks, Beth. That is a bummer, but yeah, it's all things that I'm vocalizing, so that'll be just fine. So then there's a lot of different items that need to be brought to a recycling center. So that's things like appliances. You can bring tires there for a fee, paint, and other like household hazardous waste. And an important note about recycling centers right now during COVID is some of them do require you to make an appointment online. So when you're getting ready to go to a recycling center, just definitely check to see if they're requiring people to make an appointment ahead of time. That's important right now. Then you've also got different things that you'll want to bring to a specialty drop-off site. So like your iPhones and things like that, a lot of Best Buy or Apple stores will take electronics usually for free. Clothing you'll want to bring to a clothing specific donation center. And then again, Beth mentioned the bags, you'll want to bring that to like a Target or a Cub. Yeah. So then household hazardous waste, that is anything that can catch on fire, anything that can react with other chemicals or that is like corrosive or toxic. So things like paint and cleaners and batteries and that type of thing. And all of those things need to be brought to a recycling center. A couple of thoughts related to household hazardous waste. There sometimes are more natural ways that you can deal with some of the like cleaning or polishing that you might want to do with kind of more hazardous chemicals. So things like lemon juice and vinegar are some examples that you can use instead. And you can kind of look up that to get more information. I won't go into detail about how you use those things, but if you're interested, there's a lot of resources out there. So then medications and sharps. With medications, there's a drop site at the Northfield police station, and you'll just want to scratch off your name and your personal information, but those can be disposed 24/7 at the Northfield police station. And then with sharps, so that's just literally anything that's sharp, you'll need to bring that to a recycling center in a secure, well-marked container. So here is, I'm not sure if you can see this visual, but Dakota County has a really great sorting game. So whether you have kids in your life or even if you just want to practice, I went through this game a little bit and found it really helpful. They just give you an item and they have you place it, you know, does this go to a landfill? Does this go recycling? Is this go to a recycling center, that type of thing. And it was really helpful to actually get some practice because they tell you if you're wrong. So would really recommend people checking out this game because it is fun and it's just helpful to have some practice. So then we have a video and I'm gonna guess that the video is not gonna come through. Beth, what do you think about trying the video or just keeping on rolling?
Let's give it a try. You never know.
All right, cool. All right, we'll give it a try and we will stop if it's not working.
And while,
Oh,
go ahead. While Helen's queuing that up, I did put a link in the chat there to the Dick Sanitation page of Can I Recycle This? It's similar to the Dakota County Waste Wizard, or yeah, the recycling game one. And the links for those are going to be in the document that we're sharing. And so those are great places to type your questions in. And, you know, if you want to know, can I recycle this? Like I tried my cardboard egg cartons the other day that I've been saving up during the pandemic because I couldn't take them to the co-op and restock them with eggs. Well, they are actually recyclable in the Northfield curbside recycle collection. So that was a good thing that I learned. And Dean, you can take rags. If you can find a USA again drop box, you put them in a bag and mark them scraps and you can put them in there. Someone asked me that last week, so I actually know that question. All right, Helen, give it a go.
All right, so just a little bit of background about this video. This video was made for Boulder, Colorado. A disclaimer that not quite all of this exactly applies to Northfield, but I like this video a lot because it gives a lot of good visuals and examples for what's compost, what's recycling, and how to do it. So we will check out if this video is going to work for us.
We're getting visual, but not audio.
Say that again, Beth.
I'm getting visual, but not audio.
Okay.
Or very low. I don't know if you can, yeah.
We'll give that a go, see if that changes anything.
Oh, presenter has to enable sound sharing. Oh, great. So Joanna, go ahead and pause it for a second.
Yep, okay.
All right, hang on. We're going to figure this out, folks. Let's start video. Let's see. Helen,
Yep.
why don't you, let's see. Joanna, can you tell us where enable sound sharing is?
It's there. There are options when you're going to be sharing it. They're at the bottom of the screen, and it's like, you know, there's one that says optimize for video, another one that says, you know, share sound. For some reason, it doesn't default on.
Interesting. Okay. Well.
Okay.
See
I
anything, Helen?
think
Or you want to keep going?
I think that is beyond my capabilities for the time being. So is it okay if we just go on without the video?
I'll put the link in the chat for people.
Excellent. Yeah, so that video is just kind of nice to see some examples of what's going in different places. So we'll do a pause now for questions about recycling, recognizing that we're going to get to composting in the last section. So hold your compost questions.
Someone asked about tops, and I have that question too. When can we recycle tops to things, and when do we throw those away, I suppose?
That is a great question that I do not have clarity on. Beth or anybody else,
Yeah, so on plastics, you can, so your milk jugs, you can put the cap back on, laundry detergents, that sort of thing, you can put the cap back on. For glass jars, you want to leave the cap off. Trying to think of what else there would be a cap. Oh, if you can recycle those, the Terra packs, like soup stock, it's like a cardboard box sort of thing. You can put the cap on that, as far as I know. But glass caps off, plastics caps on. Plastic pop bottles or bottled water, and don't crush plastic bottles and cans, because they don't go through the scanners as well if they're crushed. Plastic grape and other fruit plastic wrapping bags. I think I'm going to ask the waste wizard on that one. You do not need to take the labels off bottles. No.
On the bread plastic and all like that, it's got to be no, because it's the gumming up the machines of plastic bags like that that's the problem. Which is why they also want the caps on the plastic, because little tiny things create problems for the machine.
Yeah, I'm going to say probably no on those plastic fruit wrappings too. If it doesn't have the 1, 2, or 5 on it, definitely not. And even if it does, size is important. So anything really like smaller than a deck of cards is going to get stuck in the machines.
I have a question. I actually have 2 questions. Why do you have to like clean really thoroughly anything that you want to recycle? And then can you repeat the part about if you have breweries now will put labels around their cans that they sell, the crowlers, and so can you recycle those? Or if they have the wrapping around it, can you not recycle those?
I think that for the first question, I think it just has to do with, they're going to be melting this stuff down and trying to keep it clean as possible so that it has good reuse capacity in whatever it's going to get melted down and remade into. And so I think having food in there kind of gums up the recipe, so to speak. That's my educated guess, I guess, on that one. And we'll see if we can find that out for sure. And then I'm not positive on crowler cans. So we can definitely look that one up, or if anybody else is aware of the answer. I don't know. That we might have to look that one up. Okay, yogurt, sour cream, and other tub containers can be recycled with the tops. I believe that is correct, yes. And we do have, I'll as Helen's continuing to talk, I'll find the link on the city website. We had a little magnet type thing that we sent out about a year or 2 ago that had a list of caps on, caps off kind of thing on it. So I'm going to see if I can find that again too. Okay, let's see.
I have a question.
Okay. Yep.
I have a question about water and rinsing out items, because I've had my laundry detergent container is hard to get really clean in order to recycle it, the plastic container, and I'm without using tons and tons of water. So I was just wondering if there was any thoughts or known information about if you're conserving resources in one way, but using too much in another way.
Yep. I think when I talked to Dick Sanitation before, they were like, get it as clean as you can. I think probably with that, one thing that I've tried to do is if you fill it up fast all the way once, so unfortunately you do have to fill the whole thing up and the soap bubbles up quick. Then if you just flip it over and put it in the drying rack or leave it in the sink overnight, a lot of the stuff will just kind of drain out. Yeah, Matt saying it's clean and dry to prevent mold. Oh yeah.
The main thing there at the end is that you don't have to have everything spotless clean, just a good rinse.
Something like vinegar cut the laundry detergent faster than just plain water to
Oh,
counteract it?
vinegar might, yeah, it might.
And one other question I have, if the truck comes and picks up our recycle here, and I'm in the Dakota County, and he goes across the street and picks up over there in Rice County, where does he go with the truck?
Good question. I think that all of the Northfield houses that get picked up by DSI, trying to remember this now. I believe that all of the Northfield houses get brought to Rice County's recycle, but I'm going to double check on that. Because that might not
It
be
makes a
correct.
difference what we put in the recycle. That's why I was asking the question.
Yeah, yeah. I will double check on that.
Oh,
When it comes to, you know, like rinsing out, like say your big Tide bottle or whatever, if you just fill it up and then like say if you're doing your next load of laundry, just pour that into your washer. So you aren't really wasting the water. You're still rinsing the container.
Great suggestion.
That's what I do. This is Sina. I make sure that I put water in the Tide bottle, laundry bottle, for many times before it actually empty. And you can use bubbles. I mean, it still has soap in it, and you can fill it with water and just tub. That worked for me.
Great, thanks. All right. Helen, do you want to move into some of the composting stuff and then we can do some more questions at the end?
Sounds good. Yeah, great
Awesome.
questions, folks, and great crowdsourcing of answers. So yeah, we'll talk a little bit about compost. So there are a couple different options for how you can compost in Northfield. You can sign up for a curbside collection service, which is the business that I work for, called Northfield Curbside Compost. You can sign up at northfieldcurbside.com. And our service costs $10 a month. And we offer something called a sliding scale payment system, which means that you can pay less or more depending on what is possible for your household. And with that service, we give you a 5-gallon bucket and a new compostable bag each week. And then we deliver you a list of what is compostable through that service, which I'll talk a little bit about in just a moment. You can also bring things to the Northfield Street Shop Drop site. I had to practice saying that earlier today because it's a tongue twister. And that is open year round. There's some blue rolling bins just to the right side of the parking area. And I'm hopeful that you can see the map on my slide here, but the address will be on your take-home booklet. You can also bring compostable materials to the yard waste site, which is open mid-April to mid-November. It's a blue organics recycling dumpster near the entrance, and you can check your booklet or the city website for the hours of the yard waste site. So all three of those options have the same compostable items. They all get collected eventually by DSI and brought to either an industrial compost facility in Shakopee or a compost facility in Rosemont. And so all of your vegetables, fruits, that type of thing, also meat, also dairy. And then we have on here this visual that I'm not sure if you can see, but it says BPI. And so it's really important if you have a plastic that says like biodegradable or something like that, that is not enough to put it in your compost pile. It has to say compostable and ideally have this BPI logo in order to be truly able to be broken down by the compost systems that we have here in Minnesota. Then there was that question about pizza boxes. Your pizza boxes are absolutely compostable and can go to any of the three options that I listed. A couple examples of unacceptable items, plastics that are not designated compostable, oils and grease, good to keep out of there. Be really careful with coffee cups, like to-go cups. Sometimes people will get confused about what's compostable and what's not. If it says compostable, then it is. If it does not say compostable, just assume that it isn't. And yeah, can go into more details maybe once people have questions about, you know, is this compostable? Is that compostable? Because the list goes on and on of what is and what isn't. So then there's also the option of backyard compost. If that is something that you want to learn more about, we're going to be talking about it next week, next Monday, 7 to 8 p.m. So really recommend that people hop on for that. The main thing here is just you have to manage your backyard pile. You don't want to put meat and dairy products and compostable plastics in your backyard compost because it's just not able to get to the same temperatures as an industrial compost facility. So you can compost all your, you know, fruits, vegetables, eggshells, all that type of thing, but you want to keep the meat and the dairy as well as like paper products out of there. And again, more details will come next week. Then there's also an option of vermicompost, which is using worms. And again, we will talk about that in our backyard compost workshop next week. So yard waste, there's two options for yard waste here in Northfield. You can bring them to the city yard waste site for drop off. And again, just like I mentioned for you can drop off your organic food waste there, opens mid-April through mid-November, and your take-home booklet will have more specific hours. But so you can take all your yard waste, leaves, sticks, all that type of thing, grass clippings can go there. There's also a curbside pickup option for yard waste, and you can sign up for that through the city website. Okay, so then we'll pause here for questions related to yard waste and compost.
Holly Fisher, go ahead and ask your question.
Yeah, I was wondering with yard waste, we know about the where the facility is and everything, but what if you have like weeds that are invasive and stuff like that? Do you have to be careful about that?
That's such a great question. Beth, do you have an answer to that?
You know, I've wondered that myself, actually. As I was throwing my dandelions in the, no, yeah, actually, that is a great question. I have never seen anything saying you can't bring anything down there, and I'm wondering if the idea of the heat of the because that it doesn't stay there forever.
Yeah.
And so I'm wondering if where it ends up finally getting processed. We'll cover that, but that will go on our follow-up questions list. And just folks, so what I'll do for that is we'll do a little research on this, and then I will put together a follow-up questions answer sheet, and then I'll probably just email it out to everybody who signed up so that you can all get the questions.
Thank you.
Let's see, I think there was another Leona Open Show. Why don't you go ahead with yours, and then I see one in the chat. Let's see, I think you might be muted, Leona.
Okay,
There
here
you
we go.
Yeah.
This is just a comment about the curbside yard waste drag bin. I don't know how many of you have participated in that, but that has been one of the best things that's happened to me as a homeowner since I moved to Northfield, because the work of cleaning one's yard and then packaging it and dragging it to the compost site and dumping, you know, it's like 3 times the work. This way, it's a nice big tidy bin. You can drag it around your yard if you want. And at first I think they only picked up every other week, but now it's weekly once they start. I don't really know if they have started yet. That's the question. But I'm just gonna say it's made my life as a homeowner so much better to have that thing, because I can fill it up and then that's it. Like that's all the yard work I'm gonna do that week or those 2 weeks. But it holds quite a lot. So to me, it's a way less wasteful method for me to recycle my yard waste than driving out to that site and getting my car dirty on the way too.
Thank you. I'm gonna put a link here in the chat to the city recycling page, but if you open it, you'll see on the left-hand side, there's also some tabs for garbage, organics, yard waste, utility rates, all that good stuff. So a lot of these questions, you'll be able to find answers to there. And I think we had a question about paper, cardboard boxes. To my knowledge, any kind of cardboard boxes can go into the DSI curbside. You can also take them, if you have large cardboard amounts, you can take those to the boxes over by Cub Foods or Family Fare. Let's see. Matt was making a comment that the climate action plan goals that will have citywide curbside collection for all residents by 2025. So yeah, we're working towards that. We're working towards that. Let's see. Burmeisters have a question,
Yes, I
and
have a
then
question.
Carl.
I have a question. Even though there's a lot of yard waste and many things go out to the, where the city has there, and we totally enjoy that. But is that, I assume there should not be any dog waste that goes out to that. That should go in the garbage. Am I correct? Because you get a lot of that out there as well.
Yep. Yeah. Unfortunately, the pet waste into the trash, unless you can litter or toilet train your dog. I'm still trying to figure that out. I would love somebody to create one of those, especially in the winter. Let's see. We'll go with Carl, and then I see a question from Irene in the chat.
I've been trying to figure out when I'm having to do the cooking for our place. I hate it, but that's what I've inherited. My daughter's not doing well. And I get these little quickie meals, these little I'm a vegetarian, little vegetarian meals, and you stick them in the microwave and do them 3 minutes, 5 minutes, whatever. And then there's that container, which is stained, so it's no recycle. But how do I know if it's a recyclable material? If it's plastic, I can clean it out and throw it in the recycle, I think. If it's got a little number, whatever the numbers are. But can I compost the paper-like looking stuff? I can't tell what's quite, whether it's paper or it's a mixed.
Some of them are hard to tell. I think, Carl, yes, there's certainly some that are like a black plastic, and I think those are 5s or something like that. So if you can rinse those out pretty good, yeah, then you should be able to still put those in your curbside recycling. In terms of the composting, Helen, from what I'm hearing you say earlier, probably no, because we're not really sure what the material is.
Yeah, unfortunately, when in doubt, don't put it in the compost. So with a question like that, I'd say just don't put it in the compost.
Yeah. So we have 2 actually questions here in the chat. One is any paper not recyclable compostable? On the recycle side, I'll just say that what you don't want to do is put shredded paper in your curbside bin, because that gums up the works again at the recycle site. You can put whole pieces of paper in there, but not shredded. If you have material you want to have shredded, we are having a shredded paper recycling event on April 24th at the city maintenance shop from 9 to noon, and that's on the city calendar as well. And you can bring your bills and things like that. It goes into a sealed truck and gets shredded right on site. So that's a no charge service that we're offering on April 24th. Helen, do you want to talk about paper and compostable?
Sure. We do take like newspaper and shredded paper. So if you have your own paper shredder, we can take that material or in the curbside pickup, and then also at the 2 dumpster drop-off sites that I mentioned.
Thank you. Question from Irene about wine bottles with the little metals around the caps or around the top. That's a great question. I will double check on that. I don't know for certain. I have not heard that they have to be removed, but it's sort of like a big cap, so maybe it wouldn't hurt to take those off, but I'll double check on that if you can. Or, then you have to upgrade to a corked bottle, I guess, maybe, or something like that.
I'd say they probably are fine, because the machinery will separate it out after it crushes the bottle.
That's a good point. Yeah. Okay, let's see. I'm just gonna scan and see if I missed anything on there. Okay, I think we're doing good. Okay, so we had, let's see, not seeing any other hands right this second. We had some questions at the beginning. Did we answer those for you? Or are there still some outstanding items? Leona?
This was under the recycling. I still don't know what you're supposed to do with compact fluorescent light bulbs.
Oh, those you're gonna need to take to the Rice County Household Hazardous Waste Collection site, out south of town here. They have, you bring them there and they will take them for free. So on the days that they have household hazardous waste collection, you can bring them there. At one point, I think maybe Menards or, was it Ace maybe were taking them, but I don't know that they do any longer. Irene's asking about LED bulbs. Matt, have you seen an LED go to recycling yet?
No.
No, I think they're bad too, unfortunately, in part because they have mercury in them. But I know the Ace Hardware store at one point was taking them.
The LEDs?
But I'm not sure now. I'm trying to find out.
Diane's nodding a bit there. Yep, so these are all great questions for the Waste Wizard tool. And again, if you're a Dakota County resident, check yours because the Dakota County recycling place may have expanded capacity or not. And Rice County folks, check the Rice County one because they will check your driver's licenses, I think, when you show up there to verify what county you live in. Arrow Ace takes fluorescence for a fee. Okay, good to know, Karen. Thank you. Yep. Ace took LED bulbs for 50 cents each. Oh, that's nice. Great. Thanks, Diane. And they're selling them for about that much too. So it's a good deal. They had a great sale around Christmas time on LED bulbs. Okay. Great. All right, so we've talked a bit about recycling, hopefully giving you a few places you can go back and double check if there's issues. Did we answer all the questions on the composting, the differences between a little bit between backyard and curbside options? We'll get more into backyard, as Helen said, at the next session. Yes, okay, good. Thanks, Karen. Okay, wonderful. Well, thank you. Thank you so much, Helen, for your time and doing the presentation today. We will email out to everybody the handout. I think I will also ask Helen, let's save the presentation as a PDF and then we can send that to you all as well, since we missed a few of those pictures in there. And we look forward to seeing those folks who can join us next week. It'll take us just a little bit to get the recordings and such up onto the YouTube channel and Northfield Public Broadcasting, but do stay tuned for those and we'll get those up as soon as we can. Let's see, another question here about, so in Rice County, any plastic 1 through 7 can be recycled independent of color. Yeah, it's not so much color. It's just what each county is willing to accept at their facility is my understanding. The styrofoam, I was mentioning because that looks like it's a number 6 maybe, or no, wait, is that? Yeah, I think that might've been what it was listed under. Styrofoam in general, do not put in the recycling bin and actually really don't put styrofoam cups into your curbside bin either because they won't get recycled. And Matt saying Excel has coupons, so you can get 50-cent LEDs at Arrow and Menards. Nice, great. Leona, do you have another question or are you waving goodbye?
No, I do have another question.
Okay.
Oh, there's what can be recycled.
What can?
But is it really getting recycled? I mean, I've wondered a lot about that. You know, when China decided they didn't want our junk anymore, that impacted recycling markets. When gas got cheap, that impacted our recycling markets. I've wondered how much the pandemic has affected like the human power that goes into our recycling systems, because I know the machines do some things, but I think there's some human sorting that goes on too.
Yeah.
I just keep wondering, is this stuff really finding reuse markets? I mean, I don't care if they get paid money for it, but I just keep wondering whether it's really being recycled.
Matt, you want to take that one?
Yeah, I'll chime in. The answer is yes and no. Less, especially of plastics, are being recycled than we would like to think. But one thing that's very important is that the better we do put in the proper things, the more likely that the recycling is going to happen. So China stopped taking, in part because they were getting so much polluted American stuff that it was just it wasn't worth their money to. But avoiding these things, especially plastics, is even better still. I mean, think about it, folks. We're sending our Amazon boxes to China. What kind of transportation energy uses are we talking about? Picking this stuff up and sending it all the way to China to get it recycled and reused? So cutting down on what we use is actually the best thing we can do. Recycling properly is another really good thing we can do. And indeed, America going to single sort got more people putting stuff in recycling containers, but more bad stuff in recycling containers.
I'll chime in to say on the take-home booklet, there's one link, I believe, that'll be on there that takes you to a link on the MPCA website that talks about some of the different recycling facilities in Minnesota. And it was kind of cool to see that there are, for various materials, recycling centers in Minnesota. So definitely recommend that people check out that link for more information about what is actually recycled within our state.
Thank you very much. Yeah, and one of the thing that the folks at DSI keep telling us over and over again is the less contaminated we get the recycling, the more likely it is that loads will get recycled, because if they get too much contamination, then sometimes the whole loads are turned away. And so really, as much as it pains you to throw something in the trash, if you're not sure, that is the best thing to do right now. Judy?
And I wanted to ask one more question about paper bags. I don't think I understood that. You can't just put all your paper bags together and put them in recycling, but can you put your magazines in a paper bag, or collect all your paper in paper bags and then put your paper bag in the recycling bin?
So sorry, I may have missed.
Paper in.
Yeah, sorry, I may have misspoken there. Paper bags are okay to put in recycling. Plastic bags don't put in. So like the plastic bags at Target or Cub.
Okay, you can't
Yeah.
put paper bags.
Yep, paper's fine.
Okay.
Yep, magazines are fine. Newspapers are
Okay,
fine.
thank you.
Yep. Alice?
What happens to all the syringes and needles that are being used now? I mean, it's got to be considerable. What happens to with all the vaccinations
the
taking
bottles.
place, and
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 the
all the
bottles.
little vials too?
Is that a medical incinerator? I think. Very extremely high temperature furnace. Yeah, and yeah. Okay, let's see. Well, I think I just popped the two, the link for Rice County and Dakota County is what we call Waste Wizards in the website. You can type into your questions into those. Those get better the more people use them. So sometimes they don't know the answer, which is unfortunate, but it's the tool they have right now. DSI also has the same version on their website as well. And I had put that in the chat a little bit ago too. So hopefully between those, we can continue to find the answers. I think it is challenging because it keeps shifting. So thank you in advance for being willing to take the time to try to figure that out. I know it's not an easy thing. You're welcome, Kate. I'm glad that this has hopefully been helpful. We will again have this presentation online as soon as we can, try to get those answers out to you all. And I think just keep recycling and composting, everyone. Thank you so much. Have a wonderful evening.
Thank you.
And I'm going to stop the